I'm planning on decking out this room that I'm in right now at the FBU headquarters.
Nice. Want to check it out, man? Let me
Yeah,
know
it's
when
gonna
you're
be
ready.
sweet. I'm gonna paint. I think I'm gonna paint the door orange or something.
That'd be awesome, dude. All right, everybody. I got a very special guest today at Hillsborough and Hunterdon, my good friend, longtime coach, Vince Gabriele. Vince, thanks for being with me, buddy.
Oh, anytime, anything for you.
So, guys, I'll give you a little quick background. I'm sure we'll talk about it, and then I'll have Vince just kind of tell you where he's lived and tell you a little bit about his family. In 2012, I went to a mentorship at Vince's place, Gabriele Fitness and Performance, GFP, and it was the weekend of Hurricane Sandy. So I remember we actually got out of there early that Sunday, and I don't even know what the hell was going on because I wasn't paying attention to the news. I'm like, you guys got to get home before the storm.
Yeah.
But anyhow, that was right when I was resigned from teaching too. And at that point, I had hired Vince to be, at that time, my business coach, and it's going on now. We've become really good friends, and it's been over 8 years, which is pretty awesome. So, um, I've known Vince for a very long time. So, Vince, why don't you kind of just tell people a little bit about your family, where you live in, and then we'll dive into it from there.
Sure. Yeah, I live right now one town over from where I grew up. I grew up in New Providence, New Jersey, and I now live in Berkeley Heights. And I have a wonderful, beautiful California wife whose name's Vanessa, and I have 3 kids, 8, 7, and 5. And we lived in Berkeley Heights. And actually, just last weekend we moved, which is an interesting adventure to move after you've built up 13 years of stuff. so so that's where we're living right now. And my gym, as you mentioned, Gabriele Fitness, is also in the town of Berkeley Heights. So yeah, we're Berkeley Heights for life at this point right now.
Yeah, for this one, man. So let's talk about, you were a big high school football player, and you went on to play.
Well, according to the Courier News,
You were all
I
state.
mean,
Were you all state?
I was, yeah, but I mean that stuff means very little.
Still an achievement, man.
Your name got your name got picked out of a hat, I think. Yeah,
But you
but
went on that enabled you to go on to Temple University, and
yeah,
you played football there for 4 years, correct?
yep.
So Division I football player. Now, when you were at Temple, Vince, what did you know? Like, what did you study? I don't even know what your undergrad was in.
So my undergrad was business,
Business.
and the reason why, for some reason, my dad's in finance or was in finance, and I always just said, all right, it was kind of like the sheep mentality, right? It's like, okay, I'll go play football, and then when done playing football, if I don't make the NFL, which was not even a possibility, right? I will go and my dad had an office on Wall Street, and so it's like I uh, will go and do finance in Wall Street, and so I majored in business, and I started taking these business classes. And I remember taking micro and macro economics and, the accounting. And I remember hating it so much to the point where I, I could not see myself doing that. And I, fell in love with football and training and the gym, and became a black sheep of my family because I had this path that I could have followed that probably would have been pretty easy, to just do what my dad does and just go and find it. Like that's all. My sisters all did that. They went in, they got to New York City, they lived in New York City, they got jobs in the city, they got jobs in finance. And I don't know, there was just something in me that was like I had a different calling. And I don't know if it was my severe attention deficit disorder that, did not allow me to put a suit and tie on and go to an office every day. Um, and to this day, I still am grateful that I can wear a hat and a hooded sweatshirt and a t-shirt and be on here with you today. And this is considered work.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You went. So, did you finish your 4 years with the business degree, and then you just decided to like? What happened there once you graduated and,
Yeah.
and get this business degree?
So I did 4 years of business school at Temple, and then, so when you play football, you end up spreading your classes out a lot, so I didn't graduate. I actually moved to San Diego right after, 4 years of football, and, I finished my degree at University of San Diego. I was too far along to switch. I wanted to switch. I contemplated switching, to kinesiology, which is like, exercise science and that kind of thing. And I was just too far along. I had too many credits built up, so I just basically started to take classes in exercise science while finishing my degree in business. So I ended up. I do have a degree in business. 0.00% of my any success I've had in business is related to my business degree. And I always like 0%, because I was like, when I was in business school, I was like thinking about the gym, and I was thinking about, I remember sitting in business classes writing, writing sketches of the first gym I was going to have. And it's funny. I think I found one the other day. I had like my gym that I, Cal, you like this, the gym that I sketched on paper had like 3 jammers. Can you imagine like a local like gym like ours where we're training like 40-year-old moms? There's 3 jammers in there. And then for those of you that don't know, a jammer is like an exercise machine that was popularized by the University of Nebraska football team, where it's like a stand up, and you get underneath it, and you hold these handles, and then you press up and you extend your hips, and it's like I was gonna have 3 of those in my gym. But
That's been awesome. It's like it reminds me. I remember reading Bill Belichick books, and they said when he would be sitting in the back in French class, he'd be diagramming his plays.
yeah.
You know, like you drawing your gyms out. So how did you wind up moving? Like, what made you pick San Diego though to finish your degree?
So when I was a sophomore in high school, I was pretty involved in my church youth group, and we went out to Mexico, and we built houses. I think I can't remember where it was in Mexico, but right before we drove to Mexico, we went to San Diego, and we stayed in a place called Point Loma, which is fitting, because it's funny. The ironic thing is that the guy that married Vanessa and I, Miles McPherson, is the pastor of the Rock Church, which is now in Point Loma, and they have this massive campus in Point Loma. And that is like literally where I was when I got to San Diego, and I was like, I'm moving here. So when I was a sophomore in high school, I got to San Diego, and I was like, there's no way I'm not living here at some point in my life. It was like amazing. And so I just vowed, I was like, after college, after Temple, I'm like, I'm moving to San Diego, like no matter what. And actually, my best friend Mike Waldron, who
Yeah.
he was going to college at USC, so he was, and I was actually looking originally to go to LA. I kind of just wanted to go west, but he was in LA, and I was looking at LA, and I was going to go to Loyola Marymount, which is in LA, but I ended up not getting in. So the only school I got into is actually University of San Diego, um, and then I actually had a high school buddy that was thinking about going too. So we went out together, and we got an apartment together, in San Diego. And I was telling someone the other day, I was like, those days were like amazing. From when I was like 22 to 27 years old or 28 years old, I was single, lived in San Diego, worked at a gym, it was really fun times.
That's cool, man. So you graduate from there, and you already had it made up in your mind that you're staying out there for a period of time, right?
Yeah, like I mean, I don't know, like I ended up getting a job it's funny, I remember staying up really late one night looking for different places to do an internship, because I had called I remember I was originally kind of going the strength and conditioning route, and I'd called the strength coach from San Diego State University. And I remember calling up and being just, hey, I just want to learn. I'll do anything, whatever you need. And I remember I was like, I'll work, I'll come all day, I'll work all day, I won't, I'll work for free. And I remember his response on the other line. He was like, all interns work for free. And it was just such a it was like the typical, the typical kind of asshole strength coach type thing to say. And I was just like, I was so turned off by it that I started to look at the private sector. I started to look at, different gyms like yours and mine to do an internship. And I found a place called Fitness Quest 10. And the guy that ran it was from New Jersey. His name was Todd Durkin. And I was like, oh, this guy's from Jersey. Like, this is perfect. Like, I'm from Jersey, he's from Jersey. And I went out and I got an internship there. I started there. Still have my best friend who I met there, Brett Klicka. I still keep in touch with him all the time. I think you've met Brett.
Yeah.
But still keep in touch with him. And I was there for 5 years. And so I probably stayed out longer because I got that job. And we'll probably talk more about that, but it was an awesome job. And the best part is that's where I met Vanessa. So
Vanessa was working there, or?
yeah, Vanessa was a Pilates instructor at Fitness Quest when I was there.
And guys, for those of you that aren't in this industry, Todd Durkin he is like a really well-known person in fitness. A lot of people have known him, so it's a big deal to get a job there or an internship.
Well, it wasn't at the time like that when I was.
Yeah,
he's become like a big time name. But when I was there, it was just like this really little gym. We weren't training Todd's famous for training like LaDainian Tomlinson and Drew Brees. We weren't training any pro athletes at the time. Like we were just like,
Right.
just grinding, trying to grow a business. And then like, actually, I'm not saying it's definitely not because of me, but literally like a few years after I got there, that's when all the pro athletes started going there, and that Todd blew up, in the fitness industry, right in the midpoint when I was there. So it was really cool to watch. It was like really not many people know about the gym, and then it just, and
Well,
it's now regarded as a top place in the country.
that's cool. So let's so you're out there, and then you come across Vanessa. She's the Pilates instructor there. Now, how
Yep.
long before you guys saw each other did you say, okay, I want to ask her out? Like, how long was this process?
Oh, so I could go a lot of different directions here. I do remember the day I saw her. Like I remember the stare. It's funny. This moment goes back in my mind a lot. We used to do a lot of stuff in the parking lot. And so there was a parking lot we used to train all the kids, and then there was a staircase that would go up. It was like the back of the gym, and there's a staircase. And I remember I was out with this guy Brett, and we're training athletes in the parking lot. And this girl she had a Volkswagen Jetta. She gets out of the Jetta and she goes up the stairs, and I go to Brett. I was like, "Who the hell is that?" I was like, "Oh my God." And I literally remember in my mind, I didn't say this out loud, I literally remember in my mind, I was like, that I really hope to be with that girl at some point. And it's funny, it became like this. Her maiden name is Carver. And so it became like this. I would get like this obsession of looking. Back then there was no calendars, like how we have Mind Body,
Yeah.
right? And there's like a computer, so it wasn't on a computer, it was on this big book. So every appointment was on this huge like appointment book that was written in hand. And so I would go and I would look, and they would do it was always by your initials. So hers were VC. And I would go and I would make my schedule around when VC was working. And she was working like crazy. She had like 4 different jobs. She was a dance teacher. She taught at a dance school. She was dancing at the time. She had like, it was crazy. She was like all these different jobs. So she's always like coming and going and coming and going. And so I would always try and match my schedule up when VC was going to be around. And then I remember, so I remember like there was an intern that I started with at the same time who was also equally as obsessed with Vanessa as I was. And he was a little bit more forthcoming and trying to ask her out and stuff like that. But but I remember I did ask her once to go out, and we were like walking out together at some point, and I was like, "Hey, do you want to go grab some sushi?" And she's looked at me like all like she's like, you can't just like I'm walking out the door right now to go home. You can't just ask me out randomly. You got to plan. This is the word. She was like, you have to plan that kind of stuff. That's what she said to me. You have to plan that kind of stuff. So like, she said no. I was like, I guess she's not interested. And then I think that but we were very good friends for the long time I was there. But I think like 3.5 years into knowing her, after we were friends, we ended up going to a Tom Petty concert, and we went to the Tom Petty concert, and we went with a big group of people, and then we ended up like just kind of going off on our own that night, and that was history. And I've been with her, ever since.
Ever
So
since.
that Tom Petty concert, yeah,
Tom Petty,
yeah.
classic. So, okay, so you link up with Vanessa, and then you decide to move back here. So you're there 5 years, I believe, roughly.
Yeah, it was 5 years, yeah.
So what was the impetus to say, okay, time to go back to Jersey? And knowing that you're with Vanessa now, Vanessa is a native of California, right? So like, what was the impetus to, okay, I got to go back. What was your plan?
I
Oh, yeah.
I and if you ask her this, she'll say the same thing. I was very adamant on what I wanted to do early, right? I knew basically that, all right, I'm in the fitness industry, and I love this fitness industry, and I want to stay in the fitness industry. But the deal breaker for me was I'm gonna have my own gym, and I wanted to open my own gym in New Jersey. That's like what I wanted, and I was very set on that very early on. And I told her that from the minute we started dating. I said, honey, I am moving to New Jersey and opening my own gym. I was like, I hope you will come with me. So there was, yeah, they tell me stories about my dad about he was very like, this is what I
Yep.
want and this is what I'm going after. And I had a little bit of that in me. I just like, this is what I'm doing. So there wasn't any. And the other thing I said, there's two things I want in life. I want to open my own gym in New Jersey, and the second thing was I want to have a son, and I wanted his name to be Joseph. That was it. And I had said that since the early 2000s. And then our third kid, we had two girls, and our third kid was a boy, and we named him after my dad, Joey. So there's some things, and I'm pretty laid back, with a lot of things, but there's when I want something, like it's full go that I'm gonna get it.
Oh yeah. And that, there's a lot. I mean, we could go down. Well, maybe we'll go down that a little bit, but that's the power of the mind. That was
Yeah.
that reminds me of, Schwarzenegger. I've always looked up to Schwarzenegger, but he would tell people in Austria when he couldn't even speak English, when he was not even barely a teenager, he was going to go to the United States, be the best bodybuilder in the world, be a Hollywood action star, and go into American politics. And they said, "You can't even. Well, you're crazy."
Yeah.
They did it. He just said, "No,
Amazing.
that's what I'm doing."
Amazing. I actually got to meet Schwarzenegger too when I was out in
Did you?
California. Yeah, well, you know Tom Platz, the
Yeah,
Golden
no, yeah, I
Eagle,
know you
right?
have a
So
connection with
I
Tom.
used to go up to, I think it was in Redondo Beach, and I would go and squat with Tom
No kidding.
once a month, and we became actually pretty good friends. I became friends with his wife, and because my first seminar I ever did was the ISSA, and so Tom was the instructor, and I ended up becoming friends with he and his wife Cha, who we still keep in touch with today. And he's an amazing guy, but he brought me to Shotzi's for cigar night, and Schwarzenegger was always there. It was like a Tuesday night I think it was in, I forget where Shotzi's is. I think it's maybe Marina Del Rey or something like that. And I remember being so excited to meet Arnold, and he was like kind of a jerk. He like was not very friendly, and he kind of looked at us and he was like, "Hey, how are you?" And like he was talking to Tom, but it was like after we were like so disappointed it's like our hero for so long in bodybuilding
Yeah,
was like kind of like not that friendly to it, but
no,
it's
it's a shame.
yeah,
But hey,
it's yeah, it was fine. It was like it's not like it was, but it was really it was fun. It was fun being out there.
that's cool. And guys, you got to look up Tom Platz. A lot of you might not know who that is. Just look up pictures of his legs, and that'll. That'll take
There's
you
a
down that rabbit hole.
I told you about the video of him squatting
See, I've seen
five
it. Yeah,
500 pounds for
awesome.
23 reps
Yeah,
with Kaz in the background.
they're screaming. I don't. I've watched that. I mean, I don't know if where the hell they're at, man. But that's great. If they're in a jail or wherever.
Yeah,
That's great, man. Okay, so you come back to Jersey. Does Vanessa come with you right away?
she does. Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
And then, so what was the first, you started the business, what did it look like at its infancy?
Yeah, so immediately opened up 4 gyms. The first gym was in my mom's basement, so that was the first thing, and I remember my first client was my cousin, Jimmy Bistus.
Yeah,
So he would come down, and I'll never forget the first session, that I did with him. He was foam rolling, laying on the ground, foam rolling. And this was the first session I'd ever got done on my own in terms of where he's handing me a check. And he handed me a check for $80 for the session. And the most money I'd ever made for a session was like 24. And I was just like, holy shit, this is really cool. I get $80 instead of 24. But so he had it in my first session, and he's laying on the foam roll, and he gets violently ill to the point where he was puking in my mom's front yard. Vanessa and I had moved to my mom's house, and we literally for an hour puking on my first session. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like, this is like crazy. And I just like, I'll never forget that the first session. And it's funny, now he's still a client today. I still talk to him all the time. But this is like 14 years ago that happened in my first session. But yeah, so I set up a gym in my mom's basement. I rented space for $10 an hour at a local gym that's not there anymore, one of those local meathead type gyms, um, which I still wish there was some around.
yeah.
Well, that's why I go to your gym.
Step back in time.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then the big thing I did where I made most of the money was driving my truck to the fields. And I worked with a lot of athletes in the beginning, so I would just drive my truck. I had a Toyota Tacoma where I put the back hatch on it, and I kept all my equipment in there. And so literally I had a gym inside my truck, and I used to drive my truck right onto the fields. And I had like teams. I was training the Governor Livingston football team, the New Providence football team. I trained almost at one point. We were training every football team in the area. We were training New Providence, GL, Summit, Basking Ridge, Chatham. We were working with like every high school team in the area. I was personally working with, um, and we started to do a lot with middle school athletes and stuff like that. But that was like how it got started. I was just like a man possessed trying to get this thing off the ground, and it was really the youth athlete sector that kind of got us going.
And getting into all those football programs, was that from your football connection, your football days? Like, how did you get
Yeah, I'd
in?
say so. Like, there was just from people I knew. Obviously my coach Frank Patone was still the coach. Who is passed now, but he was still the coach at New Providence. But yeah, I would say that I still had a lot of connections. It was only 5, 6 years that I was gone. So, well, actually, it was more than that. It was more like
Yeah,
10. Yeah. Um, but yeah, so I had decent amount of connections that helped me kind of get that started, which was very helpful. It was very helpful for me.
sure,
I probably wouldn't have been as successful as early as I was, if I had not grown up in that area.
sure.
So for anyone that does it where they don't grow up, I really commend them that you're starting with, you have to be really good at creating relationships, and that's the
Yeah,
challenging part. But it's not a bad strategic decision, as I did and as you did,
yeah,
to start where you already have some roots.
yeah, definitely. So you're hustling like crazy, man possessed. Now talk about at the point where Big Tom comes into your life, and
Yeah.
like what's the business look like then? Where does it go from there?
Yep. So about a year into it, we got our first facility, which was the one you went to when we were at that the seminar. And I think for about I was by myself for about 2 or 3 months, and then I realized I needed some help, and I found Big Tom, who I hired, I think in October or November of 2008. So yeah, and he's still with us today. So
That's great.
2020, it's like
So at
crazy.
that point, it's the two of you, and you continue to grow. So now you're training. Is the adult population, the adult clientele
Yeah,
grow?
we had started the adult clientele. It's funny that it's funny that how that grew. I literally put an ad in the newspaper for a program called Fat Blast Boot Camp. That's what it was called. And back then there weren't there's a lot more gyms now than there was then, but back then we were like this unicorn. We were like, talk about Seth Godin's purple cow mentality. The gym that we had put together was like nothing anyone had seen. Like CrossFit was just starting to become a thing at that point right now, but no one had the combined of working with athletes. We had turf inside. There just wasn't a lot of that stuff in the area. So I mean, we got very busy very fast. We grew very, very quickly in the first couple of years. And obviously having Tom was a huge help because it was like, myself, but it was also like he was so good too that it was just like he was just an extension of me, which was a really, that's I always tell people, like, your number two guy is a really important hire. And
Sure.
that's proved to be pretty helpful.
Yeah. And you guys scaled it. I mean, by the time I came to the seminar there in 2012, you guys were already pretty renowned as far as having, for lack of a better term, like a micro gym or whatever we call it, our small group personal training, but one of the best ones in the country. And, it's only continued to get better since then. So now, I'm confident saying it's probably one of the top few in the country, of that type of model, which you're doing. So you continued to grow it, continued to grow it. You built a team. How did you learn about building the team, all this type of stuff? Like, because you don't learn that stuff in school, right? You didn't learn that stuff.
Yeah. Just like how you became a fasting expert, right? Like completely self-taught,
Mhm.
a huge thirst and quest for knowledge. And, I was just like, I don't know, I always had this like, thing to prove that, I guess, to myself, but as I look deeper and as therapy brings out, what are you trying to prove to your dad,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Right? That's like what it, but like prove that like I can do this, like I can, be successful and not be in finance and not and do this myself. So I was just, and I don't know. I felt like I had this. I always had tough time in school. I never got good grades. I was always like a low B, C student, and everything just was like academically was harder for me. Um, and the cool thing was I found something I was really passionate about, and I found my love of learning through finding my passion. And I never liked to read when I was a kid. Like my kids today, my girls, my son, they read all the time. They're always reading. They love to read. I hated reading. I never wanted to read anything. But I found that it wasn't until I found something that I really loved that I wanted to read and I wanted to learn. And the first love obviously was training and fitness and learning about the body and stuff. That was the first love. And then that slowly morphed into a love of business. That's I say, okay, I got this, the fitness thing down, and now it's like it's time, if I'm going to make this a career, it's time for me to learn how to become a businessman and a business person. And so the knowledge and the quest and thirst continued, but it just shifted toward business. And, I'm, literally a business coach, but I have no business coaching certifications. I have nothing. I have street cred.
Yeah.
That's like all I got. I have street cred, and that here's proof that what I done is pretty good, and here's the other 100,000 words and books and read that I've read. But that's it. There's no like, I like I there's very few people that would know that I have a business degree.
Yeah.
Very few.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't even, talk about it as an asset. Maybe I probably should, but it's not something that I look at as that has contributed to any amount of success. It's all been about being self-taught, and I really do believe that it's the passion that allows the learning. It's the passion that gets you to stay up late. It's the passion that gets you to, really be so into something that you just want to become the best in the world at.
Yeah.
And for me, it started in fitness and then it progressed to business. And now today it's like my, thirst to become the best business coach, that I can be, is stronger than ever. And I just have a love of learnings. And I think so. I think that's probably it, as I know you do as well.
Yeah. And that's what's always kept me connected with you. Because you get a lot of coaches that they stop. They get to a certain level and they stop learning. And then all of a sudden, if you have that thirst for knowledge, you feel like you pass them by because
Right, right, right.
they're not doing anything. And then that's where it's like, and I can always say it. I always tell people, I said, Vince is always learning. He's always learning. He's always teaching what he learns. And he's constantly. And so talk about that a little bit because now you still have the very successful gym, and then you had right SPF. You had this vision in your head to start your own mastermind. And for people that don't know what that is, it's a group when a group comes together and you have a coach and you come together periodically and you create, you help each other. So Vince started this really cool mastermind. And right now I believe it's just fitness people within the group. But I remember when you started at it because we saw each other at a seminar, I hadn't seen you for a little bit. And he said, I'm starting this. And then boom, I knew it was going to happen when you started it. But again, I was at that first seminar. So what made you decide, okay, the gym's where it needs to be. Now I want to start my business coaching on a larger scale. What made you decide that?
Um, I'm not really sure. I kind of fell into it by accident a little bit. Obviously, when you went to that first seminar, I had a friend, a mutual friend that we have in Paul, that kind of recommended I do this seminar, and he was really the one responsible for getting the people, to that first event. So I kind of, and then I had him as a business partner for a little bit, so I kind of dabbled in it before. So I got a taste of it, and it was really cool to be like, okay, I'm having some success as a gym owner, and there's a need for gym owners to learn about business, right? Because that's the thing is like no one ever taught us as gym owners how to become better at business. No one ever taught us how to market. No one ever taught us how to sell. No one ever taught us how to hire. Like only thing we knew was fitness. And so I kind of, you know, really shifted my gears towards helping others get better at that. So that's what I did, for the first few years, and then I ended up going off on my own to do that. But I think it was like the quest of teaching others to do something that they didn't think or maybe believe that they could do, right? Because I think like everyone's like, oh yeah, I got into it. I'm a trainer and now I'm going to start a gym. And a lot of times in the gym industry, it's like they get into it for you know the love of fitness and the love of that, and don't realize that there's so much potential for growth and so much potential for not growth financially, but growth as a person. And I wanted to kind of help people make that known, right? And so I think that was it. I don't really remember a specific, I think it was almost just like a natural progression. And I don't want to say it was boredom. I don't want to say that it, GFP had hit, a point, and I love GFP. I love GFP because there's nothing that I have today, without it. Right. But there was like this calling of like, all right, what's the next thing for me?
Yeah.
And it became, all right, my job. I've done one pretty good one. I have a knowledge base of business. My job is now to teach others how to do this better.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you were looking for that next challenge, the way to challenge yourself, because you got the GFP to such a level where, which is the goal, I believe, for any business owner. It can run without you, so then it's okay, what's my next challenge? What's my next calling? And that's where it's landed you. So I want to be mindful of your time here. I know how busy your schedule is. I want to ask you a couple more things.
Yeah, no, we're good.
You're big at, as am I, obviously, that's why I hired you. But you're big in investing in your own education, your own coaching, your own masterminds that you're in, your own edge. Talk about why you have that mindset and the importance of having the mindset of investing in yourself all the time.
Um, I've, it's just something that one, I think that there's also a love for it. I really love the process of learning. And it's funny that my Strength Finders, I don't know if you've taken the Strength Finders test, but Strength Finders is it's a test that you take that outlines your top strengths. And my number one strength is learner. So this is a strength that I have. Not everyone likes to do this, but this is like something that like I have such a strength in this, and I've been able to take that strength and leverage that, because as I learn, that is what gives me the opportunity to teach. Right. So I think that that was the first part, is that I knew that it's just something that I'm passionate about and I love to do, that and I'll continue to help more people if I do that. So that's the first thing. So it was just kind of like in me. I'd say the second piece of why I like to learn and grow, it could be, I don't know, it could be a fear thing. Like it could be a fear thing that I don't want to get left behind.
Sure.
Right. And I know you talk about fear, and I know you talk about that a lot, but I'll be honest and I'll say that like there's fear is a powerful motivator.
Yeah.
And right, like I,
Yeah.
I don't want to go, back to the truck.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back. And I know that as long as I keep growing, and I when I say keep growing, I'm not talking business wise too. Like I read lots of parenting books. Like I'm trying to grow as a father. You and I, we talk about just as much as parenting our kids as we do,
Yeah.
and being a good husband, to our great wives, as much as we do business, as much as we do training.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a growth in life, right? And it's a growth also as a human being. And I look at like, there's I think it's I can't remember the quote, but an unexamined life is not a life well lived. Or
Yeah.
there's a quote like that. It's just like, like there's one of the reasons why like I go to therapy, because like therapy helps me like explore like what's going on in this crazy mind, of mine, and why am I doing the things I do, and why am I acting this way, and why did I take that so personally, and why did I, you know, something else happened that I just like shoot it off. And it's just like I think that there's just like if I could really like narrow it down, it's just like I want to grow as much as I can as a human being, not just a business person, but as a dad, as a husband, as a person. And I felt like if that's the quest to become the best version of me, and I threw away a long time ago trying to be someone I'm not, right? I threw that away a while ago, um, but there's, you go through these periods, but now I think it's like, okay, how do I become the best version of myself so I can then in turn help the people that I'm supposed to help. So
Yeah. And I think the difference with the fear that you feel is most people let fear stop them, where there's almost like pushing against them, where you kind of go with the fear. Okay, if the fear is here, then I got to go towards that direction, and so that a lot of people just let fear stop them from any growth. It's just safer to
right.
stay here.
Well, there's a one of the learning I've done has been through Strategic Coach, and there's a quote from Dan Sullivan who says he's telling the story about how he's like they're training with grenades and they're throwing the grenades and they're all like in these bunkers, and it's not in the war, but they're just practicing with the grenades, and they're all scared to throw the grenades because like the thing might explode. And he says, fear is wetting your pants. Courage is throwing the grenade with wet pants.
Yeah.
And that's like a big one for me because it's like there's fear like all the time. Like I'm scared every day,
Yeah.
and there's it's almost like I get more scared to not keep going.
Yeah.
I get more scared to not learn. I get more scared to so like
Yeah. That's excellent. Excellent, man. What I got a couple quick hitters. What coach in your life? So thinking more so with your sporting career, right? Your athletic career. What
yeah.
coach comes to mind when I said which coach has had the biggest impact on you?
It's funny. It's really interesting when I think about this. And I have so I learned from our friend Matt Fury. So I've walked backwards every day since May 29th, and it's so I'm coming up on a year of walking backwards every day. And one of the things I did this morning, but one of the things that I do is out loud. And I haven't done this yet in my new neighborhood because like my new neighborhood, all the houses are like really close together. So I only go if I do it, it's like really early, like 5 o'clock in the morning and dark out, because I talk to myself out loud. So a lot of times I'll have to go like to an abandoned parking lot to do this, but I will say like what I'm grateful for. And I'm finding myself saying out loud the people that I'm grateful for that I had negative feelings towards, and being grateful for the lessons I learned. So there are some coaches that I thought that they were assholes and I didn't like them very much. Right. And like one of them, I'm not going to mention his name, but one of them was one of my coaches at Temple, and he was just a jerk. He was just a jerk to me. But then I started to think about him, and I started to think about like all the good things that I learned from him. And I started to just focus on that part of it, because the negative emotion, like Tony Robbins has a quote that like, um, you know, um, the only person that is hurt in resentment is the person that resents. Right. So it's like for me to resent him because he was a jerk to me, it doesn't do anything, productive. And so I've started to look at some of the, different people that I've had in my life where I would like kind of like think somewhat negatively and start to think positively on that. So now it's like almost like I have a lot more positive role models than I ever had before, because now I can extract a lesson from everything. But if I could narrow it down, I'd say, the strength, you pull a little bit, and I look at the different coaches I had, and I look at the different coaches that I had. A little strand and a little piece of them has shaped me as a trainer, has shaped me as a business coach. I got my um, ability to praise others and to make others feel great about themselves from a guy named Chris Hudak, who was my strength coach at Temple. And when you walked into that weight room, he made you feel like you were $1 million. Like he was just like he would always use your name, and he was like always like upbeat and always energetic. He got on you, but always in like a productive way. Um, and then this other guy I worked with, whose name was Carl Hess, he was a personal trainer, and he was like one of the most regimented, disciplined person. And I remember like he used to make me train. I was like, I was grateful that my parents were able to like get him to hire me as a personal trainer. And he used to make me, we would do like full on old school leg workouts. Like, we're doing like 25 rep squats and sets
Yeah.
of 25. And he made me do this full on leg workout. Then he would make me run to McDonald's, buy a small fry, dump the fries out in the dumpster, bring him back the receipt, which was a mile away from my house in the opposite direction, and then run back to him, give him the receipt, and then run home, and then call him when I was finished to make sure I made the time. And I learned like how to go through pain.
Yeah.
Like I think about like when things are hard, and I think about some of those workouts I did, and I think about some of the things that he made me do that just like no high school kid was doing that stuff.
Mhm.
It was like he literally would take a stick and like smack me in the stomach with a stick, like while I was doing crunches. And like, so from him, I learned, to be disciplined and to be tough and to be, and I wasn't like a tough kid. I was a wimp. Like I was I was a big baby. And I remember when I first started playing football, I didn't want to hit anybody. And like, I started to develop that. And so like, I could go, you know, on, and obviously, my football coach in high school, Frank Patone, who was just a huge role model influence for me, and so there's so many, that I can mention, but I like to look at every coach that I've ever had as I've gotten great things from, whether I like them or not.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good. That actually be a good exercise, I think, for people. How you thought this through with all these coaches, people you might not have thought you got something from, but now you're realizing, that might be a good exercise for me to do is go down and write down every coach I've had and what did I get from them, you know.
Yeah. Well, the gratitude thing takes you down a road. If you're forced to express gratitude for 30 minutes straight, which was what you do when you do backward walking. So you set a timer for 30 minutes and you backward walk, and out loud you say what you're grateful for. You find all kinds of stuff. You find all kinds of stuff. Like there's people like that I was grateful for that I didn't even remember, but it was a real interesting, it's a really interesting thing to do. But it's like you always talk about like the brain and mind mapping. It's like it's taken my brain down roads that I have not gone in, ever.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Now, besides any of your own books, which I want to plug at the end, what's your favorite? When I say what's your favorite book, what comes to mind?
Well, is business like anything?
Anything. If you could read one more book, this is the last day on earth.
Oh, if I could read one more book, it's probably something similar to, Man's Search for Meaning,
Okay.
by Viktor Frankl,
Yeah.
something like that, where like, you think about, life, and you think about what really matters, what,
Yeah.
what really matters in life, because at the end of the day, it's like we're on this quest in business and we're trying to be successful, but then sometimes you realize it's like, all you really need is, a good, happy time by a fire pit with your wife and kids. And, that's like, that's all that really
All you need.
is matter. You know what I'm saying? So all this stuff is great and we're pushing the envelope and trying to grow. But, most of us have everything we need to be,
Yeah.
fulfilled, at this point right now. And so probably something like that, some kind of a purpose driven, if that's the last one I could
Yeah.
read.
Sure. It's
Yeah.
a great one, man. How about 5 years from now? What do you see for your life?
Um, I'm pretty set right now with what I'm doing, and I'm goal is to, impact. So my mission and purpose in life since I started this has to been, help people live healthier lives, right? That's like the basis of it. My vehicle for getting there is now different. My vehicle for getting there is through the lives of gym owners and through the lives of, people that maybe were like me, that maybe didn't have the intelligence or wherewithal to go into finance and to go into all that stuff, but they need help becoming a business person. And so I look at that as that little community on Main Street, that gym owner that's got 200 to 300 clients. It's like when that guy's there and that guy's on fire and that guy's leading and managing his team and things are great, that community is healthier. Like I look at your gym and I look at the community that you've built, like your community, that the Hillsborough community, the Flemington community, those people are living better and healthier lives because you exist. And so that's kind of like my purpose for helping gym owners, is that there's these little pockets all over the country and all over the world now. We got some international clients now, which is pretty crazy. We had a guy from Amsterdam on the call the other day. But it's like these little pockets around the world are now, I have the ability to make them better at business, which will help make their community healthier. So that's like, I know I will push, because here's the thing. I think that as much as sometimes we get bored, there is something to be said for staying put and staying in something and becoming the best and doing one thing really well for a really, really long time. So, and then obviously, now with my new relationship with Will Matheson and the Tech Nerd, is that we've started a marketing agency and a digital agency. So, that's probably, the next big growth plan for me is the marketing agency side. And that probably can branch out to not just gym owners, but other health and fitness related businesses, dentists, doctors,
Yeah.
people like that, to help support them with a big problem and challenge that they all have. So I see myself in 5 years, um, doing, similar things, but on a much bigger scale and a larger scale. I love the fitness industry. I'm here, for a while. I'm not saying I'm going to go get it, a career change and stuff like that. So, and it's just in 5 years, I just really hope that I'm a lot better than I am today. And that's
Yeah.
the goal.
Yeah. Look forward to that, man. That journey. Last one. If you were to go back to the 20-year-old Vince, what advice would you give him, knowing what you know now?
Yeah. So number one is, spend more time, um, learning why you do the things you do. So more of a start the self evaluation process a little earlier, and asking yourself this question, like, why am I thinking this way? Why am I acting like this? Why do I do the things I do? So I would tell them myself to start learning about yourself sooner. Um, I would tell him that there's no need to take anything personally, and that what other people think of you is none of your business.
Mm. Yeah. Spot on.
Right. So it's like, yeah, I've been trained. It's funny when you put yourself out there and write an email a day, like I have for the last 4 years. You put yourself out there, and every chance that you write an email, there's someone that can come back. And as much as there's someone that can come back and say, that was great, I want to buy something from you, someone could also say F you, which has happened, to me. So it's like, it's that. So I'd say, yeah. So the first one is, I tell my 20-year-old self is to, learn about yourself, why you do the things you do, why you think the way you do. And then the second thing is stop taking things personally, and live life on your terms, and be be a free thinker, and do the things that you think are best in life, not what anyone else does.
Excellent. Excellent advice, man. So, where can people? So, I have a couple of avenues. If people are local to your area,
Yeah.
tell them they can get in touch with Gabriele Fitness, and then also if there's business owners or gym owners, and they want to reach out to you for SPF. So, what's the two best ways for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah. So for the gym, it's just GabrieleFitness.com. That's GABRIELE.
Mm-hmm.
And so, And then if any gym owners or business coach is, they can go to vincegabriel.com. That's my website. They can get access to the podcast is probably the best place to go. It's called the Fitness Business University Podcast. That's probably the best place to go to get a ton of free content and information, to learn a bit about what we're thinking about and what we're doing for business owners. So I'd
Right.
say those two websites. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make sure those are in the show notes. And it's been a pleasure, man. This has been awesome. Just give me
Yeah, this is fun. This is
it's,
great. Yeah.
let me just
No,
bring.
thank you. And it's an honor to do it. And I think the world of you. I think the world of your team and what you're doing with Newell Strength and what you're doing with all the fasting. And like I'm telling you, like you've gotten me into the fasting, and like I do it like every day. I got my Kyle Newell juice right here in my SPF shaker. Um, but no, like, and I go to your gym and I go there on Fridays and have a great time. So it's been a fun ride. I appreciate what you're doing with this podcast. I appreciate, all the speakers that you're bringing in to do this. I've watched a bunch of them and they're just tremendous. So you're doing a great job, man.
Thank you, Vince. I appreciate that. Awesome. So